if we could start with the honor guard, then thank you. I was just about to say you can take your seats, but I guess I don't have to. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Bob Hart. I'm the president of Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime. And with me, I've got a couple of really special folks who are serving on the committee with me. We have Jane Grand, who was married to Tom Guerry and has attended over 50 Guerry Awards. And also we have Daryl Scary, who was a Santa Barbara City police officer, worked with Tom Guerry, and then probably for 20 years did the honor guard for these events, and since his retirement from the police department has been on the committee to help make this happen. Daryl Scary. I'm being taped to the floor, apparently. So with that, I think we should all have just a brief history of what these awards are about and about the person behind them, about Tom Guerry. So Jane, would you give us a few words, please? And Daryl, think about what you want to say too. That's not going to stay down.
That's all right. I can hold it. Can everyone hear me okay? Good. Well, I'm providing the human interest, I think, today, because Tom and I were married in 1961 at the tender age of 19. All he wanted to do was be a police officer. And in 1963, at the age of 21, he became a Santa Barbara City police officer. And he served so happily. We were young. I just thought you might be interested to know what our salary was. About $423 a month. And for the 7 years that he served on the PD, somehow on that salary, we had 2 children. We put a down payment on a house in San Roque. I don't know how we did that, but anyway, that was kind of the way life was in the 60s, if you will. At the time of his death in 1970, this Citizens Council on Crime was formed, not only to honor Tom and what he gave us in the way of his valor, but also to honor all of these people here. We have had so many recipients of the H. Thomas Guerry Awards, and we are so proud of all of them. Not only officers, but also law enforcement personnel for their superior service. We've had a lot of categories, we've whittled them down, but it's been a very, very important part of our community. Today, I'd really like to thank Bob Hart, our president of the Citizens Council on Crime, for making this happen, because during COVID, we have not met. We haven't been a part of what we should be doing here in the community. So Bob single-handedly made this happen today, and I'd like us all to thank him for that.
I got roped into this. I don't speak well, but I'll try to give you something interesting. I went on the Santa Barbara PD in 1965. Tom Guerry had already been on for 3 or 4 years at that time, and we got a chance to work a couple of years together in patrol, and then he got promoted to the Detective Bureau. Tom was a very imposing man, big. He had a full, thick head of hair, and his teeth were probably as straight as a ruler. He just that was his pride and joy. Tom didn't like guns, by the way, but if you caught him on a short moment, he always had a toothbrush with him. But he was just a great guy to be around. He was the president of our Police Benevolent Association, so it wasn't uncommon for him to tangle with the staff from time to time over issues that affected the line working people. And he was a champion at that, and we certainly appreciated that. I think most of you have read the short synopsis of what happened that night. I won't bore you with any of the other details, but it was quite an interesting story. I mentioned to the officers that are receiving the awards today that we all learn from each other's mistakes. And if we have to be held accountable, that's okay. If we can just learn from a lesson from that, that's okay too. But the idea is we have a cohesive family that sticks together for all the right reasons, and we need to support one another. And the biggest support they get is from the spouses and the families that are at home while the officer is out doing their duty. I always said that the line of communication has to be kept open. When you go home at night, when the officer, if it's a male, and mama asks, what happened today? Sit down and tell her. It's not like they see on TV, but that's the first thing that they associate it with. You got into a fight, and somebody got hurt, and they can't believe it, because the only thing they're going to do is flash back to that TV program that they liked. But when they get a chance to communicate or talk back and forth with you about, it wasn't any big deal. Well, I won, and the guy went to jail. That's hopefully the case. Tom was a good man. He was a very accomplished carpenter and did a lot of odd jobs at different things. And he was very personable. But you always knew where you stood with Tom too. Jane. He wasn't shy about who he tangled with, and as long as he was right. And most of the time, if not all the time, he was. So we appreciated that as line cops to have a guy like that standing up for us. There were some interesting facts that occurred that happened during the evening when Tom was shot. His partner was a detective by the name of Henry Kirkwood. And Henry still lives here in town. He moved away for a long time, had some issues with dealing with some of this stuff, and then was able, got divorced, got remarried, moved back here, and he's still here in town. I see him from time to time, and we just talk about old times, and it's really kind of a refreshing thing to maybe try to find out where he's coming from now, but he's surviving, he's doing okay. The night that Tom was shot, they were looking for 3 guys who were coming from, I think, the Pennsylvania area all the way across the United States, and they were bad guys. They were shooting things up, they were fighting, they were beating people, and a whole host of things, robbing places. They got down to the LA, I guess, City Hall. They'd parked down underneath the garage down underneath there, and as they were coming out, they were going to shoot the attendant, but the gun misfired. And so they skipped and left, came back up to Santa Barbara. Another guy that they were involved with was a guy named Thomas Coleman. And Coleman got tired of all the running and all the things that they were doing. So somewhere along the line, he found a highway patrolman. I don't remember his name, but told him what happened. And the highway patrolman brought him over to the police department and turned him over to us. And from then on, the search went on for the Bowersox brothers. The Bowersox brothers had gone from wherever they last saw him to a bar up on the mesa. I had a couple beers, and so that was the intelligence or the information we had. Tom and Henry were assigned to go see if they could find him. And they got up there. They'd already left there by that time. Well, as they're coming back to the station, they're driving up Chapala Street, and about a half a block off Chapala is a street called Bradbury. I think it was Bradbury, yeah. Oh, Brinkeroff. Yeah, they kind of ran in together, I guess. But so they decided, like all cops would do, let's go check them out. And as they pulled up and kind of pulled up into the intersection, the T intersection of this location, both of them got out, and the 2 brothers split up at that time, and one of them had the gun, shot Tom, almost instantly died, and Henry, his partner, shot back at the assailant with the gun and wounded him through the shoulder. Any Canadians in here? Well, the reason why I asked that is because I had the task of being able to take the Bowersox brother that had been shot out to the County General Hospital. And when I got out there, we turned him over to the doctor, and the doctor said, told me in confidence that he had been a Royal Canadian Mounted Policeman. And when he found out that this guy had just shot and killed a city police officer, I hate to tell you what, but it wasn't, his bedside manner wasn't like you'd like to see it. So he kind of had some payback there, I guess if you could call it. Long story short, after they had the little gunfight down there, the Bowersoxes ran into the neighborhood around Delavina and Solis, Ortega, I guess, around that area, and they ultimately were corralled and brought into the station. Most people don't talk about this, but I think I have to tell the husbands and wives who are non-policemen, is the lessons that we did learn, and one was when they brought one of the Bowersoxes, whichever did the shooting, handcuffed. They handcuffed him either in the front or the back, but on the opposite side of where they had him handcuffed, they brought him into a little sally port, and that locks everybody in. But they discovered that he had a small firearm in his waistband. And it could have been another tragedy right there at the police department. But we survived that one, we won that battle, and they went to jail. So I think once you understand those things and you see that, you know that information, it makes it a little bit easier to understand why we have a guy like Tom Guerry that we're celebrating today, and then these gentlemen and women who follow very much in his footsteps. Facts might not be the same, but They do a terrific job every day to keep us safe. Pardon me? You're very welcome. I just got stuck with the glue on the tape.
They tried to tape down that mic cord and it flipped the wrong way on us. So. All right. Thank you, Daryl and Jane. It's just nice to put some history on it. And I've got to tell you, for those who are here the first time, that's the best history lesson we've had in 52 years. So thank you very much. We really appreciate that. What we want to now go to is let's honor today's recipients and do that. So for those who want to follow along on the program, we're going to take them from the bottom up, just to be a little different. So I'd like to invite up to the podium Captain Logie of the California Highway Patrol and Officer Tyler Kelly.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It certainly is my honor and my pleasure to be here amongst these highly qualified awardees. It's men and women. We all are united by the drive to serve, and what we have here is a prime example of all that coming together. Their service wouldn't be possible without the men and women and family support that they have at home. And before I begin, I just want to simply acknowledge your sacrifice and your commitment to their service as they perform their duties day in and day out. So thank you for that. I also want to recognize the council for taking the time to acknowledge our Officer Kelly from the Santa Barbara CHP office. He's dedicated to service. Tyler is has proudly served nearly 5 years as a deputy with the Kings County Sheriff's Office before joining the CHP in 2014. He graduated from the academy in 2014. He then reported to West Los Angeles, and then later in October of 2018, he reported to the Santa Barbara station, and that's when we had the pleasure of working with Tyler. So during his 8 years as a highway patrol officer, Tyler has gained the respect and admiration of his colleagues, friends, and family. He's dedicated to the CHP's mission and our community. Tyler has always sought ways to make a positive impact on others through his hard work. He proactively qualified as a field training officer, officer safety training instructor, and information technology coordinator, among other assignments. Always willing to take the lead, Tyler assisted our HQ staff to perform an officer safety IT project for our station. His efforts reduced HQ staffing costs while enhancing communication and computer resources for our patrol personnel. Officer Kelly also serves as a member of our special response team. He voluntarily deployed to deter unlawful activity at places such as the state capitol, where his team spent an entire week ensuring his protection during the presidential election of 2021. But for tonight, in addition to that, he's really being honored for his actions on October 11th, 2021. And that particular day, Tyler displayed his leadership and courage. At about 2 p.m., a large smoke plume ascended from the mountain range located about 20 miles northwest of Santa Barbara. This event quickly progressed into the Alisal fire, which burned approximately 17,000 acres. The fire quickly spread and made its way towards the US 101 freeway. Tyler was one of a few CHP units working that day and was assigned the critical task of closing US 101 to protect the public, and also allowing emergency personnel to get out there and fight the fire. While working this assignment, a tractor-trailer truck had crashed and ran off the road near an active railroad track within the wildfire area, and it also erupted into flames. To make matters worse, several passenger vehicles became trapped on the US 101 southbound freeway near this crash as the smoke from the wildfires made it impossible to see. Without hesitation, Tyler responded to the scene thoroughly through the heavy smoke and took the necessary steps to ensure the parties involved in the crash were safe. Tyler also evacuated several other trapped motorists from the Alisal fire as it made its way across the freeway. Tyler acted courageously and swiftly in a very fluid situation. His actions on this day undoubtedly saved lives and exemplified our organizational values. And for these reasons, we selected Tyler for this Superior Performance Award. Tyler, I thank you for your efforts on that day and for your service throughout your career.
You know, in addition to the plaques that each of these recipients is getting, they're also getting a little ribbon to wear on their uniform that they'll put right on underneath their badge and differentiates them as being a recipient of the H. Thomas Guerry Award. And I've got to tell you, that's something that they'll have on their uniforms for years. I get requests from time to time, someone saying, I got in a scuffle and mine got knocked off or broken or whatever, and we'll be glad to replace them if that ever happens, if anybody knows of that. But it's just something that they wear with pride for the rest of their careers. So they'll be getting that. So at this time, I'd like to also bring up Santa Barbara County's District Attorney, Joyce Dudley, for the last time since she's retiring, and Chief Investigator Christina Perkins.
While Tina comes down, it's so great to see both of you. I had the honor of working with each of you in my career, and it's marvelous to see you today, and thank you for everything you've done for Santa Barbara. And thank you to the council, how you managed to continue this going, and you're right, that pin means everything. And to the members of the District Attorney's Office who fill up two very long distinguished rows, three very long distinguished rows, great to see all of you. Good afternoon. It's true, this will be my last opportunity to present an award at the Guerry Award. When I was thinking about today, I was thinking about how much it meant to me when I got the Guerry Award. It was perhaps the highlight of my law enforcement career, because you know this award is so deeply meaningful to those of us who are here and to those of us who received it. So it gives me particular pleasure to give it to Christina today. And where are your kids? They're not here. Okay. Well, I was going to make this great transition to talking about your kids, but okay, the speech is now a minute shorter. Tina was nominated last year when she was a commander. Obviously, she did such a great job as a commander that I have now promoted her to be our new chief. But understand, we usually don't give out these awards to chiefs, but it's been a long time, 2 years since we've had our last one. Chief Perkins came to us from UCPD. She was hired by the Santa Barbara County District Attorney's Office in May 2013 and was assigned to the Welfare Fraud Unit. She was promoted in January 2019 and assigned to the Cannabis Compliance Team. It was during this time that Chief Klaus recommended her for this award. I want to stop and go back to the first part of my speech now, because I forgot to say something that's so important and close to my heart. When I received the Guerry Award, I received it with Commander Dan McGrew, and it was such a very special moment to share that with you and that you're here with me today, and Joe is here in spirit. Excuse me for that moment, but had to recognize Dan. Back to the Cannabis Compliance Team and the work that Tina did. The team was the supervisor, the guidance, the light in that team was Sergeant Frank Vasquez in the Sheriff's Department. He developed a strong reputation throughout the state of California for having an effective and productive compliance and enforcement program. Chief Perkins' role within that team was not only to provide support in your typical investigative manner, but more importantly, to provide expertise and direction as it relates to the financial aspects of the investigation. While conducting surveillance and executing search warrants are the most exciting aspect of every investigation, the paper trail that follows, not so much. But our chief's role within the team was to review, organize, and act upon all financial components discovered during the investigation. This resulted in additional warrants, asset forfeitures, financial analysis, and case management organization, all created by Chief Perkins. The Cannabis Compliance Team was dependent upon Chief Perkins with her exceptional skills related to locating and seizing illegal monies and properties that were the result of illegal cannabis operations. In the latter part of 2019, Chief Perkins conducted a self-initiated investigation related to an illegal cannabis operation the team had investigated. As a result of her actions, an additional $700,000 was located and seized. In addition, her follow-up on another case resulted in the discovery of 2 safe deposit boxes and the subsequent seizure of another $70,000. Sergeant Frank Vasquez offered the following comment about Chief Perkins. Tina is the fine-tooth comb. I love that. The fine-tooth comb of our investigations, and we couldn't do it without her. It is important to recognize the fact that the early success of the cannabis compliance team is due to the strong professional and personal relationships that have been developed by the men and women of the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department and the Santa Barbara District Attorney's Office. While we recognize and appreciate Chief Perkins' strong work ethic and recent success, we also commend the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office for all members of the cannabis compliance team for inviting her to assist them with their mission for welcoming into the family. As a result of Tina's success with that program and many others, she was promoted to chief in March of 2022. In the last several months, she has brought that same level of success to her new position as she did as an investigator when she started and as a commander before she was promoted to chief. Clearly, I can say this without any doubt whatsoever, where Chief Perkins goes, great success will always follow. Congratulations. Okay, when I hand it to that. Okay.
Congratulations. And when the nomination came in, it said interim chief. And she got promoted during the process, so we were able to give her a plaque that says chief, and it doesn't have interim on it. So we got that taken care of. All right, so at this time, I'd like to bring up Chief Heitman of the Santa Barbara County Probation Department, along with Supervising Probation Officer Joseph Contreras.
It's an honor to be here with such an esteemed group of law enforcement professionals. I so appreciate the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime and the Guerry family for hosting this event and recognizing the important work of our local law enforcement agencies and today's outstanding award recipients. Every chief appreciates officers who are recognized as the go-tos, those that everyone wants on their project, or in their unit, or in the field with them. Those staff who are calm and consistent, who bring technical excellence and compassion to their work, and whose performance across the board is consistently exceptional. In our agency this year, Supervising Deputy Probation Officer Joseph Contreras has been that officer. SPO Contreras' name comes up time and time again in conversations about who to assign to the most difficult work, who will come to the table with ideas, who will bring the expertise and a thoughtful perspective, who has the field skills to teach others and the capacity to supervise and mentor. Joseph Contreras has consistently demonstrated the qualities of a superior officer: dedication, professionalism, positive attitude, and initiative to move things forward. His desire for self-improvement is a direct reflection of who he is as a person. He's not satisfied with the status quo. He wants to be the best officer he can be, day in and day out. SPO Contreras takes pride in being a peace officer, and he carries this sense of pride to all assignments and duties he undertakes. He's counted on to train others in field tactics and provides a balanced approach to probation work, emphasizing wellness and treatment while prioritizing accountability and public safety. He's embraced change, which explains in part why he's been assigned to the high-profile initiatives like the Compliance Response Team, Field Training Officer, and now as supervisor of one of our pretrial supervision units. He has the aptitude to adjust quickly to whatever his department needs. He's also humble and gives credit to others. At times, he's straddled 2 different assignments and has given both maximum effort. There's never a question that his work will be excellent. As I was preparing these comments to share with all of you, the objective to provide a summary of Joseph's superior achievements and to acknowledge his personal and professional characteristics was not a difficult one. I found myself reflecting on the department's core values and code of ethics and the requirements placed on all of the peace officers here today and others within our law enforcement community. I can proudly say that Joseph embodies and adheres to these standards and principles. It's with great honor and distinction that I present to you Joseph Contreras, the Santa Barbara County Probation Department's H. Thomas Guerry Award recipient for superior performance.
And to continue with all this excellence in law enforcement, I'd like to call up Chief Mariani from the Lompoc Police Department and Officer David Garza.
Good afternoon. It's truly a pleasure and an honor to be here this afternoon. And I too would like to thank the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime and the Guerry family for continuing this fine tradition. You know, I've been in Santa Barbara County for about 7 years, and one of the things that I love most is the fact that we come together and celebrate our successes. And today, you see this in the audience and in the recipients, that we honor not one department, but all of our law enforcement departments. And that's very special, because there's many counties that can't do that. So I really appreciate being part of that. The Lompoc Police Department's recipient for the Thomas H. Guerry Award for Superior Performance goes to Officer David Garza. Officer David Garza has been employed by the Lompoc Police Department since 2008. He has served the citizens of Lompoc in several different assignments to include patrol officer, bicycle patrol officer, motor traffic officer, and field training officer. And while he was a motor officer, it's not common for a chief to receive compliments about a motor officer. And oftentimes I'd be out in the community and people would tell me how polite he was, how respectful he was, and how nice it was to receive a ticket from him. Very unique. I wish I could replicate that. Officer Garza was assigned to the department's K-9 program in May of 2019. It was one of the first specialized assignments that I made as the new chief. Officer Garza was partnered with K-9 Brahms, who's extremely special. I wish he could have been here today too. Officer Garza also has the ancillary duties of Special Weapons and Tactics team operator, and he is also a range master. Officer Garza and K-9 Brahms have taken the department's K-9 program to a superior level of performance. In 2020, Officer Garza and K-9 Brahms had a total of 120 narcotics and patrol-related deployments. The two combined for 25 apprehensions and 7 K-9 engagements during those incidents. Officer Garza and K-9 Brahms have been a major resource for the department's SWAT team. They were utilized in 2 SWAT operations during that time. In 2021, Officer Garza and K-9 Brahms continued their success with over 70 deployments in the year. Officer Garza and K-9 Brahms combined for 14 apprehensions that year. The duo were again utilized in 2 SWAT incidents, and K-9 Brahms had 19 narcotic fines during the year. Officer Garza has added 83 arrests and also took over 350 reports over the past 2 years. Officer Garza has been such an exemplary K-9 officer that the department elected to pursue the acquisition of a second K-9 unit to our department. Officer Garza has played an important and key role in the development of our newest K-9 team. Officer Garza takes pride in his work and continues to thrive in his K-9 assignment. His nomination for this award was unanimously made by supervision and command staff for his superior performance. Officer David Garza.
And at this time, I'd like to bring up Sheriff Bill Brown and Sheriff's pilot, Lauren Courtney.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be back in person for these awards after a hiatus. And I always begin by a special thank you to Jane for being here to remind us of the sacrifice that was made by Tom Guerry, and say what I always say, that these awards named in his honor, through them, a part of him still lives in a way that humbles those of us who have come after him. So thank you for being here, and thank you for that great history of what happened that night. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to present the H. Thomas Guerry Award for Superior Performance to Sheriff's pilot, Lauren Courtney. Lauren, I asked him one time, I said, what got you interested in flying helicopters? And he told me a story that his father took him to a political rally in Los Angeles where then Mayor Sam Yorty was speaking. And Sam Yorty was flown into this event in a helicopter. And Lauren's dad knew Sam Yorty, and he took Lauren with him and went up and talked to him, and he said, my son is really interested in helicopters. To which Sam Yorty looked at his pilot and said, hey, take these guys up for about an hour around the city and show them what it can do. And so at 8 years old, he got a ride all around the city of Los Angeles in a helicopter. And he said that seed was planted, and there was nothing else he wanted to do in growing up. And when he became of age, he joined the United States Army, and he had a distinguished career with the Army, flying all sorts of helicopters. And he came to us in, I'm doing this for the first time here. Now I know why I don't do this normally on my phone. He came to us on December the 2nd, 2019, hired as an air support unit pilot for our Joint Sheriff Fire Air Support Unit. Lauren came with a long and storied aviation career, not only in the Army, as I just mentioned, for 20 years, but also he had worked as a civilian aviation carrier flying medic, flying medevac helicopters. And when he was hired, he was one of 4 pilots that regularly are assigned to the Sheriff Fire Air Support Unit. However, due to some circumstances, he found that he was soon one of only 2 operational pilots in the unit. And then in May of 2021, the last remaining other pilot was hired by another agency. And so he became our sole certified pilot that could fly the aircraft in the air support unit. And in 2021, the amount of flying that Lauren did was nothing short of extraordinary. He is responsible for flying law enforcement missions, medevac missions, technical rescue, and aerial firefighting missions. He is tasked with maintaining proficiency in 5 different types of aircraft, each with their own capabilities. He works with 4 different crew chiefs, each with their own operational style. And I'll pause for just a second to recognize the fact that tonight, here to honor him, are the people that he is privileged to work with. His fellow pilot, George DeLuca, his boss, Eric Rainey, and Brian Olmsted, his former boss, and an array of crew chiefs from both the fire department and the sheriff's office. So thanks, guys, for being here to support him in this. And thank you for what you do. Every day these guys go to work, they go in a very dangerous environment. And they fly and protect us, and they do an incredible job, particularly with the front country aerial firefighting, which has saved countless homes and countless lives over the years. He was instrumental in the build-out, Lauren was instrumental in the build-out process of the new Queen of the Fleet of the Air Support Unit, and that is the Firehawk helicopter, a Sikorsky S-70 Blackhawk, ex-military and ex-California Air National Guard helicopter that was purchased and was completely refurbished from top to bottom. And it is now a state-of-the-art aerial firefighting aircraft, and he was responsible largely for helping get that aircraft designed and finished in its configuration that it is now. Pilots at the Air Support Unit typically work a 4-10 schedule, 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, and they remain on call in between shifts for half of the pay period. Lauren, to keep the unit fully operational, worked a 5-10 schedule, and he remained on call during his work hours as well as his 2 days off, and was called out often on his days off. He minimized his vacation time, and he has always put the operational needs of the unit above his own personal needs. In 2021, he flew a total of 256.5 hours, totaling 71% of all the flight hours that were flown by the unit. These flight hours included 30 medevac transports, 28 hoist rescues, the response to 38 vegetation fires that resulted in 238 water drops. He launched on 104 responses to law enforcement missions, including 27 vehicle pursuits, 3-foot pursuits, 35 suspect searches, all of which resulted in the arrest of 35 suspects. Lauren responded to 79 of those incidents I just described after hours. Pilot Lauren Courtney shows true loyalty and dedication to the Air Support Unit, to the fire service, and to the law enforcement agencies that he flies in support of. And most of all, he does that for the citizens of Santa Barbara County. When a fire threatened to burn out of control, when a lost or injured person needs rescue, when the safety of the public is threatened in any way by criminal suspects on the run, only then do we realize the true benefit of the Air Support Unit. And Lauren is being recognized as the pilot who held the unit together during the unit's staffing crisis in 2021. He continues to be one of only 2 operational pilots today, and he is someone who we are immensely proud of, someone who has done a tremendous job. And if you've been watching the news lately, 964, which is that Firehawk helicopter that I just mentioned, has become operational about a week and a half or so ago. And right after the time that it became operational, he flew on 3 front country fires here in the south, plus 1 up in the north, plus the Tahigas fire. And he has dropped water on 4 of those fires, and I can tell you that the quick response and the additional capacity of the aerial firefighting platform of the Firehawk resulted in those fires, with the exception of the Tahigas fire, those fires being put out in record time on scene, on station, and in his first or second drops on several of them, he wiped out the entire flank and the forward progress of the fire. So it is my pleasure, on behalf of the Santa Barbara Citizens Council on Crime, to present Pilot Lauren Courtney with the Santa Barbara County Citizens on Crime Award for Superior Performance. Well done.
Well, that concludes our presentation of the superior performance, and we now have 7 recipients this year of the H. Thomas Guerry Award for Valor. So I'd like to start with Chief Mariani of the Lompoc Police Department and Detectives David Magana and Gabriel Molina. I do want to just mention quickly too that Detective Molina's father is a 3-time recipient from us in all 3 categories that we've ever had. We've got 1 category we don't even have anymore.
So it's no easy task these days to be a police officer. And sometimes it's further complicated and made more demanding when you're a legacy candidate, which both of these guys are. They come from law enforcement families. Gabe's dad, Ralph, and Dave has his dad and his uncle who's currently serving with us as a sergeant on the Lompoc Police Department. So they have a lot to live up to, and that makes it a little bit tough. Let me tell you a little bit about both Detectives Magana and Molina. David started his career with the Lompoc Police Department in 2010. He began his career as a police intern, then he transitioned to a jailer, then a police trainee, and ultimately he became a police officer. He served as a school resource officer. He also was part of the PRCS AB 109 team. He also became a member in July of last year of our Special Investigations Unit. And along with his ancillary duties as a range instructor, arrest and control instructor, special weapons and tactics team operator, he's also a field training officer. Gabriel began his career at the Lompoc Police Department in 2018. He was initially assigned to patrol before being assigned to the Special Investigations Unit in July of last year. He also serves as a member of the SWAT Special Weapons and Tactics team and has done an excellent job there as well. The reason that they're the recipients for this award is on the evening of Saturday, September 11th, 2021, at approximately 9:23 p.m., officers were dispatched to the 500 block of North M Street to a report of shots fired with 2 intended victims. When officers arrived to the location, they located one victim with major injuries. The second victim fled the scene due to an involvement with a local street gang. An uninvolved witness provided a suspect description to the initial responding officers, which was then broadcast over the police radio. Detectives Magana and Molina heard the call and responded to the area. As they neared the area, they saw the suspect fleeing from the scene wearing clothing that matched the description which was provided over the radio. They attempted to apprehend the suspect, at which time he fled on foot. Detective Molina exited the vehicle and started to pursue on foot, knowing the suspect had just shot at least one person. A nearby witness yelled at detectives, alerting that the suspect had a gun. Detectives continued to pursue, and Detective Magana drove ahead of the foot pursuit and exited his vehicle in an attempt to block the suspect and joined the foot pursuit. As the detectives were closing in on the suspect, he threw the firearm into a nearby backyard and was taken into custody. The suspect was an active gang member with an extensive history of criminal activity. The immediate actions, decisiveness, and bravery of these detectives, coupled with their willingness to pursue in the face of danger, undoubtedly prevented a gang member from harming other members of the community. It was later determined that this suspect was responsible for shooting another suspect just 2 blocks from the original shooting the officers were sent to on M Street. The firearm recovered in the case was matched to 5 other shooting investigations in the city of Lompoc. These detectives were responsible for stopping further acts of violence and gang-related assaults, as well as recovering a firearm from the streets. Their actions, tactics, presence of mind, and their courageous actions are worthy of this recognition and praise. Detectives Molina and Detective Magana. I also want to add, when it was first announced that they were getting these awards, David thought it was because they're the best looking team in the department.
The chief almost got one of those black ribbons, but we made sure it got into the right hands right there. All right. So if I can invite back up Sheriff Bill Brown and Senior Deputy David Ashley and Deputy Rockwell Ellis.
So let me tell you a little bit about these two guys, and then let me tell you about something that they did that earned them this award. Rockwell Ellis was hired as a custody deputy for the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office in 2012. In 2013, he was promoted to the rank of Sheriff's Deputy. He has worked patrol in the Carpinteria and Goleta areas, and he's currently assigned as a motorcycle deputy in the Goleta Traffic Bureau. David Ashley was hired as a Sheriff's Deputy in 2015. He's worked patrol in Goleta, Carpinteria, Central Stations, and the Isla Vista Foot Patrol. David currently holds the collateral assignments of a field training officer, and he is a member of our special enforcement team, our SWAT team. Let me tell you the incident that occurred that is one of the most stirring and one of the finest, I think, that I've ever seen in my career. On Tuesday, November the 9th, 2021, at approximately 4:53 p.m., deputies were dispatched to assist fire personnel with a structure fire in the 100 block of Orange Avenue in Goleta. After deputies were dispatched, it was reported that someone was possibly trapped inside the building. Deputies Ashley and Ellis were the first to arrive on scene. They were directed to the affected apartment by a neighbor, and they were able to see dark black smoke billowing from the apartment. The deputies made their way to the apartment and initially could not even see inside the apartment due to the thick smoke. Deputy Ellis attempted to look inside, but was quickly overwhelmed by the smoke and pulled his head back outside. Deputy Ashley dropped to the ground and was able to see as there was a clear layer of air along the bottom of the floor. He estimated the smoke was standing about 1.5 feet off the floor, and he was able to see a woman down on the floor about 20 feet inside the apartment. Deputy Ashley, held his breath and crawled along the floor, making his way to the woman. When he arrived, he saw that her clothing was on fire and that she was unconscious. He patted the fire out quickly on her clothing and began to pull her out of the apartment, crawling on his back and pulling her behind him. When he was almost out of the building, Deputy Ashley took a breath and immediately felt the effects of the smoke and hot air from inside the apartment. He had difficulty breathing, and he started to get dizzy. Deputy Ellis then stepped into the apartment and pulled both Deputy Ashley and the woman to safety outside the apartment. Deputies Ashley and Ellis took a moment to catch their breath after coughing from smoke inhalation, then carried the woman to the street. Once at the street, they rendered aid to the woman until emergency medical personnel arrived to assist. The woman was transported to Cottage Hospital and was later transported to a hospital in Los Angeles. And she is currently recovering from her burn injuries at a recovery hospital in the Los Angeles area. If it was not for the quick thinking and the immediate actions of these two sheriff's deputies, it is doubtful that the woman would have survived this fire. In recognition of their courageous, swift, and resolute actions under life-threatening circumstances, Deputy Rockwell Ellis and Senior Deputy David Ashley are hereby awarded the H. Thomas Guerry Award for Valor. Congratulations.
I am in the background of so many photos today. All right. I'd like to invite up Chief Malekian of the Santa Barbara Police Department to honor Officer Adrian Gutierrez, Officer Cristina Ortega, and Officer Davina Valerio.
Thank you. It's been my privilege for almost 16 months to serve as the interim chief for the city of Santa Barbara and to work with an incredible group of individuals, 3 of whom are represented here today. And I want to thank the Guerry family, and I want to thank the Santa Barbara Council on Crime for keeping Tom Guerry's memory alive, for keeping the definition of valor alive, and for giving us an opportunity to remind the public and the people that watch that the work that we do in law enforcement counts, that it matters, and that it makes a difference in the lives of everybody we come in contact with. Valor is a funny definition. Valor has been clearly articulated here today by everybody who has received the award and everybody who is about to receive this award. But everybody in this room, everybody in the departments that are represented, in point of fact, displays valor every day, because none of the people involved knew that something was going to require them to go above and beyond the normal daily routine and risk their lives. And that is what we honor every day. I'd like to tell you about the 3 officers that are here, and I have reached that stage in life where I need glasses to do so. But they run the spectrum of this profession. They show us that regardless of experience, regardless of time, that you do not know when the call will come out. Officer Adrian Gutierrez has served at the Santa Barbara Police Department for 22 years. He has had numerous assignments during his time to include patrol officer, beat coordinator, school resource officer, crisis negotiation officer, community liaison officer, and he is also one of the Police Activities League officers. He also has the distinction of being one of those people that you cannot go anywhere in Santa Barbara and somebody will say, "Oh, I know Adrian." Everybody knows Adrian. Officer Christine Ortega has been serving at the police department for nearly 22 years as well. She has worked as a first aid instructor, a crowd control instructor, and a drinking driving team officer. She is currently serving as a field training officer, teaching and mentoring officers who have just completed the academy. And on the other end of the spectrum is Officer Davina Valerio, who was a field training officer with Officer Ortega at the time this call for service came out. It was only her 5th day on patrol. Since then, she has successfully completed her field training program and is currently serving as a solo patrol officer in the Mesa neighborhood and the Upper West Side. On the morning of November 17th, 2021, the Santa Barbara Police Combined Communications Center received multiple reports of a serious residential structure fire in the area of 700 Spring Street. At the same time, calls were coming into the dispatch center. Santa Barbara Police Officer Adrian Gutierrez was patrolling on Milpa Street and observed a large plume of black smoke approximately a block away. Officer Gutierrez was the first responder on scene and immediately radio dispatched that the residential structure was fully engulfed in flames. Moments later, Officers Ortega and Valerio arrived to assist. Officers could hear screams for help coming from inside the burning home, and while looking through a window, observed a man trapped in the house. Officer Gutierrez used his baton to break the window to reach the trapped man, but inside the room, there were numerous items of furniture piled up in front of the window, which made it virtually impossible for the man to escape from the now fully engulfed structure. All 3 officers were able to remove the blockade of furniture and pull the man out of the window and carry him to safety, all at great risk to themselves. It is my honor to award Officers Adrian Gutierrez, Officer Christina Ortega, and Officer Davina Valerio with the H. Thomas Guerry Award for Valor. The Santa Barbara Police Department, as well as the entire community of Santa Barbara, thanks these officers for their heroic actions. Congratulations. All right, let's see how we do. I guess we're looking this way. Glasses.
And to make things even more special, the city of Santa Barbara is naming streets after these three heroes. So if you drive through town, you'll notice now Gutierrez, Ortega, and Valerio. Thank you for laughing, by the way. You know, one of the things that I marvel at every time on these awards is that all of these folks are the ones that when everybody else in the world is running away from problems, they're running toward them. You know, they're going into the burning buildings when people are coming out. You know, that type of thing. And it's not, these are 7 shining examples, but it's every single one of these uniformed personnel here on the street every day is willing to do it. You know, whatever the problem happens to be, they're running toward the problem. And thank God they're doing it for us so we don't have to do it ourselves. So I'd like to thank every member of law enforcement in Santa Barbara County for the outstanding job they do, and specifically to our 12 recipients here today. Thank you for a job well done. We are so honored to be able to honor you. And thank you all for being here today to help us honor them. Have a good day. Thanks. You're touching file in any way you feel like.